to talk something about what I have done in my research during my PhD tenure from Malaysia, University of Cyberjaya. While I was a student, something always struck me, and that was uh, major research is not being done in homeopathy. And even today, a lot of people, they come to me and they say that, you homeopaths, you just run away from doing RCT, that is randomized clinical trial. Of course, RCT have got some aspect which is at variance with what the tenets of homeopathy, is there, like individualization. When you go for RCT, individualization you have to let go of. But here, I thought, okay, let me just go and do something about RCT. Let us see what the result is. Whatever the result is, let me just see. So while studying, I had come across one aspect and one sentence in Clark's Materia Medica, and that was that in Max Sulf it was stated that because of its diuretic action and increased thirst, Max Sulf is given a lot in treatment of diabetes. Now that statement stuck in my mind, and I wanted to try and do some research onto it. So this entire thing was way back in 1999, and it got shaped in 2017 when I took admission in University of Cyberjaya, Malaysia. I took up this thing as this thing. This is the major title of my thesis. What we had previously was just what you want to know. But when you have to write completely in your thesis. So this is what it was. Evaluating the effects of homeopathically potentized magnesium sulfate 30C as an adjuvant. What do you mean by an adjuvant? An adjuvant is a thing which is an add-on. It is not the drug of choice. It is an add-on. On insulin resistance. Now we all know that there are various causes of diabetes. Diabetes can be because of insulin resistance, and diabetes could also be because of lack of insulin. Okay, 93% of the time the cases are because of lack of insulin resistance. Only 7% of the time it is because of lack of insulin. So even in type 2 diabetes mellitus, most of the time the insulin is not the problem. It is the insulin receptors which are the problem. The insulin receptors are not recognizing insulin, and then they are not acting the way it has to. So I wanted to try to see the effect of magnesium sulfate 30C on insulin resistance in patients suffering from type 2 diabetes mellitus. So this is the entire research that I'm sharing with you. I would not be going much into the background. We all know what exactly it is. Diabetes is considered to be one of the scourge of humankind, and mostly the urban population is affected a lot. It is being estimated that by 2030, almost every fourth individual would be diabetic, and out of the diabetic, every fourth diabetic would be an Indian. So you can imagine 25% of entire diabetic population would be an Indian. So India can well become the capital of diabetes. And right now also you can see diabetes is so very common. The next common disease is hypertension. There were certain researches which was being done by non-homeopaths, of course, and they tried to see the effect of magnesium diet in diabetic patients, and they come to very fascinating conclusions that oral magnesium supplements means actual magnesium things. Now what we give as a 30C is a way low thing, a dilution thing kind of a thing. But what they had find out was when you give magnesium supplement to patients suffering from type 2 diabetes mellitus, what you get, it improves the glycemic state. Now there are two types of glycemic state. One is the short-term glycemic state, the other is the long-term. The short-term glycemic state is what we judge with fasting blood sugar and postprandial. And the long-term is what we judge with HbA1c, glycated hemoglobin. That's a long-term glycemic thing. So this was the rationale behind which I wanted to give. The aim was, the title is fairly clear. And the objectives. Now when you do a PhD research, you need to have at least 4 objective data. It should not be a subjective one. Like, subjective one in a patient, patient ne kaha, I am feeling better. That's a subjective thing. So you can have a lot of manipulation when it comes to subjective data, but when it comes to an objective data, means what you can see in a thing. Like FBS is seen, serum magnesium can be seen, HbA1c can be seen, So you should have at least 4 objective data in your research so that you can know how your research has progressed. So we came up with 5. The first was on the effect of HbA1c. The second was on the fasting blood sugar. The third was fasting insulin. The fourth was serum magnesium levels because we were given magnesium sulfate. And the last one that we gave was HOMA-IR. Now HOMA-IR was the cornerstone of my entire research. I wanted to see what HOMA-IR could do. HOMA-IR is a mathematical sort of equation which states that whether the insulin resistance has improved or not. Okay, so this was the cornerstone of my research. I didn't know what effect it might have on the other 4 parameters like glycated hemoglobin or fasting blood sugar or something or the other, because up till now no research had actually taken place, homeopathic research on diabetes, especially of this kind. Okay. So this was the entire methodology. This is the overview, right? The design that I opted for was RCT, randomized, controlled, single blind, crossover study. What do you mean by randomized? So I would just go take some time in this. Randomized is when the patient comes to you, before that you have a random number selection. Okay. Before the patient comes to you, you know that, it should not be a kind of एक पहला patient आया तो उसको हम investigational product देंगे like magnesium salts. दूसरा आया उसको हम placebo देंगे. No, it should not. This causes bias. Okay, so what you do is you have to select the number. The selection of number computer and बहुत सब available है. Only thing is what that you have to do. You have to be prepared with all the numbers. So the first number जो आया आपने उसको blinding करा और पहला number है, खोल के देखा क्या देना है इसको. So whatever it is, you have to give that, whether it is a placebo or whether it is a IP, that is investigational product. So it was a randomized trial. Second was controlled. It was controlled by placebo. On one hand it was placebo, the other hand it was the investigational product. The third one was a single blind. Single blind means the physician was knowing what has been given, the patient was in blind, that we don't know what has been given to the patient. Okay, and it was a crossover study. Crossover study means that after a particular time, let's say for example, if you are going for a 12 weeks duration, then 12 weeks तक आधे लोगों को आपने placebo दिया है, आधे लोगों को you have given investigational product. After that wash off period होता है, and then the entire team gets reversed. Group A gets reversed into Group B and Group B gets reversed into Group A. This have got a few advantages and few disadvantages. Advantages उसका ये होता है कि confounders जो होते हैं ना, कि there might be अगर parallel study करते हैं हम, if you go for a parallel study, 2 parallel study, like if you take up a group of 50 individual in one group and 50 individual in the other. Okay, so there is a possibility that in a 50 individual, in the first group, there might be more females, one thing. There might be more number of complications in participants. So ये इसको confounders बोलते हैं. So confounders can be negated when you opt for a crossover study. They both cancel out each other, because the same group which had taken placebo, the same group is now taking investigational product after 3 months. Okay. So this was a kind of thing. The standard drug given was placebo. Wash-off period was given for 2 weeks. The entire duration was 26 weeks, and 3 pills magnesium sulfate 30C was given. So this was the entire trial that we started with. The endpoints, starting में patient जैसा आया, we went for all the study. HbA1c, FBS, fasting insulin, serum magnesium, and HOMA-IR. At the end of 12 weeks, we again went for the study before crossover. 2 weeks ka wash-off period, and then again we gave the third one at the end of 26 weeks. Okay? And then we studied the period. This is the timeline, what you can see. The research design and methodology. Institutional committee से हम लोगों ने उसको ethical committee के साथ we have to take an admission that, I mean, you have to take the permission that you are doing a research, with human research, human clinical trial. I still remember very well that the first time when I had gone to my this Malaysian university, and I told them that I am going to do a research in homeopathy. So they said, okay, fine, you are doing a research, and then they said that which animal? And I said, because वहाँ तो rats और उसके ऊपर ही करते हैं. मैं कहा कि no, I am going to go for a human clinical trial. And they just stood up from their chair. They go, are you mad? We are not going to give you permission for doing human clinical trials in Malaysia. Where the hell are you going to get the permission from? And then I had to reassure them that, sir, I am going to do it in India. And in India, you can get any sort of permission for any kind of thing. And actually it happened. I was able to get it. So they clearly state that you will have to take permission not from us, but from an Indian ethical committee. So this is the primary requirement. Before doing any human clinical trial, you have to take up a permission. So I had to take up a permission of Indian Ethical Committee that I am going to do this research. They appointed one person who overlooked the initial few patients that I am doing it according to whatever I had stated that. I'm explaining things to them, I'm taking the consent form, I'm getting their signatures, I'm getting everything as per the books. And only then I was able to move ahead with that. So as you can see, Group A was given magnesium sulfate 30C, and Group B was given placebo. The first period after 12 weeks, the second clinical assessment was done, and wash-off period of 2 weeks was given. Then the Group B was shifted to, the placebo group was shifted to the IP group, and the IP group was shifted to the placebo group. And after another 12 weeks, the third and the last clinical assessment was done, and the analysis was made. This was the inclusion and the exclusion criteria. That is what you have to make. Now, in the inclusion and exclusion criteria, we didn't had any background that किसी ने आज तक करा नहीं है, तो we don't know that what you have to include and what not you have to take. So we took everything. We said कि भाई we won't go with any this thing. We'll be taking everything at a time. We'll be taking all cases of type 2 diabetes mellitus, not type 1 but type 2, because type 1 के अंदर तो वैसे ही इंसुलिन का है नहीं, तो इंसुलिन रेजिस्टेंस की इफेक्ट ही पता नहीं चलने वाली है. So we will be going in with all cases of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Okay, irrespective of the duration of illness, whether 1 year का है, 1 day का है, 1 month का है, या कभी कभी है 30 years का है. We'll take all cases of type 2 diabetes mellitus. One thing. Second thing, we'll be taking both the genders, okay, to get a proper idea. Whether there are morbidities or complications with or without, we'll be taking everyone, okay. Except one thing हमने कहा है कि because magnesium may cause diarrhea, So any patient who's complaining of chronic diarrhea would be excluded because that is a sign, a short sign of a magnesium insufficiency. So this was the only exclusion criteria that we took. Okay. उसके बाद patients who did not provide any consent form and pregnant and lactating mother ought to be discontinued. The withdrawal criteria was anyone who wanted to withdraw at their own free will for whatever reason, either personal or for any other thing, and any patient who necessitated hospitalization during the course. तो उस वक्त जाहिर बात है कि वो लेने वाला नहीं है medicines, so we would exclude them. The sample size that was calculated was 68. You know, there are, you have to go to the mathematical, the statistician, you have to tell him that what you want to do, where you want to do, you know, and then there are some, these equations, he knows better what to do. So he would take up the entire thing, make some calculation and would give you the sample size. So the actual sample size that I had received was 68 and with 10% of dropout rates, you know, because it was just 6 months, 3 months and 3 months, 6 months का ही था. तो हमने कहा कि भाई it would not be a major dropout, so 10% would be enough. So the entire thing was 76. The statistical analysis was done by our ANOVA, repeated measures of ANOVA. So this is not up till now. I mean, ठीक है ये उसके लिए. This was the mean average year. The statistical data. This is just the baseline. This is also the baseline. You can see the maximum number of patients were between 51 to 60 years. 62% were males and 38% were females. And this was the statistical data. And now this is where the thing gets interesting. What you have after analyzing everything, the baseline, the pre-crossover and after crossover, means 0, 14 weeks and 26 weeks. What we came to know was, it was very surprising because I didn't know what I would be getting at. It was the first time an RCT was being done. It was the first time that magnesium sulfate was given irrespective of individualization. Patient का symptoms match करता है या नहीं करता है. I just gave max sulf to that. But only thing is, उसको type 2 diabetes mellitus है, चलो देकर देखते हैं. That was the only thing. Okay. So I didn't know, 90% I was sure कि मुझे कुछ मिलने वाला नहीं है. Even my supervisor, one of the supervisor, who's a homeopath, उसने भी मुझे यही कहा कि sir, it would be difficult. He was calling me sir. I said कि भाई you are my supervisors, you better not call me sir. मगर problem यही है कि भाई मैं भी जानता हूँ और आप भी जानते हैं कि इसका मिलने वाला कुछ नहीं है. But we have to find out कुछ तो result मिलेगा. Whatever the statistical data is, let us just see over it. What we found out was very surprising. इसको अभी जाने दो. As far as the FBS was concerned, what you can see, there was no major difference. The blue line, it starts with 139 and ends at 134. 5. थोड़ा कम हुआ, 5 जितना, ज़्यादा नहीं. Orange line 133, 118, ज़्यादा कम हुआ. Orange line is the IP line, magnesium sulfate की. So magnesium sulfate के अंदर काफ़ी कम हुआ था. Almost you can say 15. But statistically there was no major difference. You are seeing this? The significance part, it has to be less than 0.05, which was not there. Okay. Are we supposed to stand? Statistically. So FBS was out of the question. FBS पे तो कोई effect हुआ नहीं. So we went to the second thing. And that was fasting insulin. कि fasting insulin पे क्या होगा? So as you can see, the blue line starts at 15, ends at 16. The orange line starts at 14 and ends at 18. थोड़ा improvement हुआ insulin के अंदर, you know, secretion of insulin, but not much. You can see that. The significance was not there. Okay. We went to the third thing. एंड दैट वाज सीरम मैग्नीशियम कि वेदर हमारी मेडिसिन सीरम मैग्नीशियम के ऊपर कुछ इफेक्ट करा मैग्नीशियम सल्फेट ने. So as you know, both started with 1.96, almost 2 के करीब, and they all ended also 2 and 1.99, no major change. So again, significance also was not major thing. Okay. We went for HOMA-IR, which is a mathematical calculation. Again, 5.7, 6.04, 5.21, 5.08. No major change as far as the significance was concerned. So 5 में से 4 parameters were out of the questions. No major change within 6 months or 3 months, you can say. What had happened was, we went to the fifth one, and this got interesting, and this was glycated hemoglobin. As you can very well see, it started at 7.98, went up till 7.37, and then went up till 7.75. This was the blue line. The blue line was the placebo line. So placebo पे the effect नहीं हुआ, but when you can see the orange line went from 7.9 to 7.37 to 7.29. And significantly, when you applied the repeated measures of ANOVA, and the value was 0.04. This was the treatment effect. And this is, I'll just go over there, I'll just take it up fast. Yeah. We were not so very, I mean, we were happy, but we thought कि भाई let us put it to some other test also, कि कुछ गलत तो नहीं हुआ है, कुछ problem तो नहीं हुआ है. There might be some problem in the 76 patients की value अंदर डालना, and then again 76 into 76, so 156, कुछ कहीं mistake हो गई होगी और कहीं पर भी कुछ भी problem हुआ. So we put it into another stats direct, repeated measures of ANOVA, stats direct, जो एक another software है apart from SPSS जो ये करता है statistical analysis. We also sent it to there, and it also showed a significant reduction in the p-value. What you can see in the glycated hemoglobin HbA1c, you can see the p-value was 0.001, much less than 0.05. Now this is the first of its kind research where you can see. So we have to give a thing कि भाई ये कैसे हो गया है, You can see glycated hemoglobin is considered as the gold standard treatment in managing glycemic control, long term glycemic control. Short term के अंदर मैंने पहले ही बताया था कि FBS and PP2BS होता है, but long term के अंदर nowadays also all the diabetologists and all the endocrinologists, they opt for HbA1c to diagnose, to treat, and to prognosticate. HbA1c is the gold standard treatment, and having a positive effect on a gold standard treatment, that too in a treatment effect, was a clear cut thing that magnesium sulfate, irrespective of the symptomatology, this is the scientific research that is being done over here. Ab we have to give an answer that why other parameters come nahi hue. So there are various reasons. When we talk of fasting blood sugar, is it fasting? Yes, it is the fasting blood sugar. As I have stated in the very beginning also, exclusion and inclusion criteria ke andar, we have not given them any dietary advice, we had not given them any lifestyle modifications to be made, और FBS तो कैसा होता है, आपने अगर 2 मैंगोज ज़्यादा खा लिए तो आपका FBS पूरा बढ़ जाता है. People usually, मेरे पेशेंट्स, जब मैं प्रैक्टिस करता था, पहले की बात है, they used to make a fool out of me. What they used to do is कि whenever they used to come for, मैंने उनको बोला 1 month के बाद आके हम लोग टेस्ट करेंगे यहीं पर मेरे वहाँ पर. So they used to don't have major food. They would skip a couple of meals a day prior to their meeting with me, and then they would come, तो उनका diabetes वैसे ही कम आने वाला है FBS, and they would say कि okay fine, now we can have a food, and a whole month they would go and they would insulin. When you talk of insulin resistance, the insulin is reduced way before, resistance बहुत पहले आ जाता है, till type 2 diabetes mellitus clinically significant उनको दिखने में आता है तब तक. It is years before T2DM आता है. It takes years, and हमारा research का time कितना था? 12 weeks. We were giving investigational product for 12 weeks, and for another 12 weeks we used to give. So this was a thing. Serum magnesium. When we talk of serum magnesium, again here you can see that serum magnesium usually हम लोग जब बढ़ाने की बात करते हैं, we were talking of supplement. What I had given, what we have given, homeopathic medicines are in dilutions. It is not a supplement. And as far as the HOMA-IR is concerned, HOMA-IR is nothing but a mathematical equation. If your fasting insulin and your fasting glucose is not being touched, then HOMA-IR is not going to be touched. So what this entire research indicated was that potentized magnesium sulfate 30C was able to reduce the glycated hemoglobin. You can see the p-value less than 0.001. It didn't had any effect on the other 4 parameters. But to achieve notable outcomes, either the dose, which is the potency, or repetition, or duration or study, or almost all of them. Now the ball is in your court. You are the future of homeopathy. Whatever I had done, I had done. Now it is up to you. If you want to do a research in homeopathy, this could be one of the very well, research subject. You can take up the same thing with different potency, with a longer period of time, with more number of samples, and with different these parameters and exclusion and inclusion criterias, and you can go and you can come with very astounding results. And if not on diabetes and magnesium sulfate, you can also take up some other remedy with some other disease. So what I want to say is that RCT is a possibility in homeopathy. Only thing is that we need to try. We have to dare to be wise. That is the only thing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful insight into this topic. Really, we appreciate your presence, that you have come so far on my request. And I really, really thank you, a big thank you from my heart. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So I've just started one slogan, Har Ghar Homeopathy, Ghar Ghar Homeopathy. Thank you, thank you. And I request Dr. Venugopala sir to please come onto the stage and facilitate our Dr. Zameer sir. Please.
Come to dais and share this event.